So, good morning, everyone. My name is Dana Poklepovic. I am based in Buenos Aires, Argentina. It's very early morning here in Argentina. And well, it's an amazing round I am watching. 93 teachers all over the world helping Puerto Rico. This is really amazing. So please remember to donate. Every little helps. Every little helps to rebuild Puerto Rico and help people and learners there. Today I'm going to talk to you about how to make English classes and business English classes inclusive for learners with disabilities. My area of expertise is within business English at corporate level, but this framework that I'm going to share with you can really be applied to any level of English and teaching English at schools and private institutions as well. So let's start with what disability is. Within the world of disabilities, of diversity, we could say, of diversity, disability is the least known and addressed of all these diversities. We talk about gender diversity, racial diversity, and we also have the people with disabilities. Do you know how many people with disabilities there are in the world? Any guess in the chat box? Well, there are 1.5 billion people with disabilities in the world. This represents 15% of the global population. And people with disabilities, according to the UN, constitute the largest minority as it crosses all sectors like gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation, religion, etc. Now, in the past, disability had no visibility. We didn't know what a person with a disability were able to do, and not even that they were aware of their own skills, because they were kept in their houses, they were not sent to school, they were not exposed to society. Now they received special education needs in special schools, and they did not interact with the rest of us. And there was also a sense of taboo around disability. At present, this sector of society is gaining more visibility thanks to many legislations like the Equal Education Opportunities Law in the United States, in Germany, in Argentina, in Uruguay, in many countries. This makes them, this enables these kids to go to school, to mainstream schools with some adjustments. This is what we are going to do today. Many countries have also passed laws regarding the inclusion of people with disabilities in the workplace. And companies receive tax incentives or quotas to help them work like anybody. What it's important to understand today in these 10 minutes is that we are not equals, of course, because each of us is different and unique. And that's what we need to understand. Each individual is unique with or without disabilities. The idea is that they can receive the equal opportunities either to work or to study at schools. And this is where we teachers of English come in. They are included in schools and in the workplace. And so how can we adapt our classes to make them inclusive for them, for people with disabilities and with learners without disabilities? So I would like to share with you a framework that I use. We need more time, of course, than 10 minutes to explain, but I give you some ideas. And if you like it, you can contact me afterwards. Rob, how can I turn this past the slides? Okay, thank you. So the framework is called REAL, and it's for real inclusion. We are going to see each of these letters and as an acronym. Okay, the next slide, please, Rob. So the first step is to regulate our own biases. As teachers and as human beings, we all have biases. We believe that we can be objective with our students, with our learners, and treat them all in the same way. In fact, this is not possible because we have these unconscious biases. Unconscious biases are the decisions that we make on the spot when we decide who to give the time to talk, or who you are going to make a team with, who do we call to make this task or the other. If so, what is the stereotype that we have in mind? What's the ideal corporate learner for you, or what's the ideal school learner for you? The one that has all the good marks, or the one that makes an effort to learn. So these are, because of these stereotypes and beliefs and assumptions that we have, we make decisions based on them. We need to be aware when we make decisions on what grounds are we grounding them. Also, the problem is that when we make this decision, the risk is that people with disabilities may feel discriminated. So we have to be aware of what we decide on our perceptions. Of course, being unconscious of our own biases helps us to build more empathy and trust in the class with adults and kids as learners. The next slide, please, Rob. Now, something that everybody asks me is, how should I interact with a learner with a disability? Can I talk to him or to her in the same way? Well, the first step is we don't need to victimize a person with disabilities. We need to treat them as a human being, just like we treat anybody. We don't need to assume that their disability is a tragedy in their lives, because normally, in general, they are more aware of their identity as a person with a disability than we are. So there is no need to assume in our science, because that would be an unconscious bias, that they are feeling bad. Some, of course, like any of us, some can handle their problems in a better way than others, but we need to treat them like anybody. It is important, depending, of course, on the type of disability, because this is a very general talk. I suggest you to make eye contact and to adjust your posture to the eye level. If we are talking to a learner who is sitting on a wheelchair, we need to perhaps sit down and talk to them and their eye level. Don't assume that we are always need to give assistance to them. They won't feel well if we always want to help these learners. Ask before giving assistance. Ask them if they need assistance. And this is very important. We don't have to underestimate the abilities of a learner with a disability. Having a disability doesn't mean that they cannot learn, that they cannot understand, depending, of course, on the disability. If it's an intellectual disability, we are going to talk with them in a way that we are going to understand us. Okay? The next one, yes, thank you. The E stands for establish an ecosystem. As a teacher, when you receive learners with disabilities in your classes, you need to have something in mind. You are not alone, because teachers normally say, oh, how can I deal with 20 students, 20 learners, and 2 or 1 with a disability? It's impossible. Well, you're not alone. I suggest that you create an ecosystem where all the stakeholders are important and need to participate. This is made for a company, but we can adapt it to schools too. The learner is always at the center, and we have in the case of a company, the human resources department that they have to give us the job description and the career plan of this person that is working in the company, with what is expected from them and what they can and can't do. And based on that, we can prepare our lessons. If it's a school, we talk with the headmaster or headmistress or director, what you call them, and according to that, the age of the learner, what he is expected to do. Then we talk with the mentor or the NGO or the therapist, and this is the most important person to whom you should partner with, because these are the specialists in each of the disabilities. As a teacher, you are not expected to know about deafness, about blindness, about Down syndrome. But if you have a student with a Down syndrome, you have to talk with the therapist, and they will give you the exact list of expectations, how they can deal in class. Okay, then you have the family, which is a really, really important. It's a network that you have to have: the school, the teacher, the therapist or mentor, with the family. The family has to be aware of all the steps in the education, and the team or the schoolmates also. It's an ecosystem. An ecosystem is a living system where all the parties are important. Okay. Next one, please. The A stands for to adopt accommodation strategies. As I told you before, we are not equal. Each learner is unique, and we, of course, need to accommodate. Just as we accommodate or we adjust buildings for people with disabilities on wheelchairs, we need to adapt other aspects of the class. Here I put you some aspects. Of course, this part is so large, but we can deal in 10 minutes. There is material design. When you design your material, you will have to, according to what the therapist and the school told you, you have to adapt the material. You can look on Google universal design, and there you will find a lot of information on how to adapt material. It has to be multimodal. Multimodal means that available to all modalities of learning. Then we have the presentation of topics. How does the teacher present the topics in class? If you have a blind student, of course, you will have to, when you present a PowerPoint, you will have to describe the images that you have in your PowerPoint. If you have a deaf student, you will have probably to sit him or her in front of the class or talk to him directly, looking at his eyes, because they can lip read you. And that depends on the type of disabilities. Use tech tools. Today, for example, my young son is deaf, and he uses hearing aids, and he takes to school that MFN, which is a very little equipment that is designed to help him listen at a distance. And that's important that the teacher learns to use this type of tech tools. Then the teacher talk in class, how you are going to direct, to use simple, direct, short sentences, and not to make complex understanding. And the accessibility, of course, of the building that has to be dealt with with the school. The last one is L, leverage disability. It has been demonstrated at all levels that diversity and diverse teams are more productive and more creative. The same applies in schools. As the leader of the group, the teacher has the opportunity to show the benefits of having diverse learners. And we can do this by making them feel really unique and that their contribution is valuable to the classroom. You can use different activities to leverage disabilities. For example, what I try to use with my students is develop soft skills, use a lot of storytelling, because people with disabilities see the world in a different way because they have a lot of resilience. So their stories are very helpful for the other learners. So we can incorporate disability perspectives into the course content too. And this will be positive with the learner with disabilities and the team as well, because it creates more coherence. So, well, thank you very much. And
Thank you, Dana.
remember to donate.